Hello and welcome to season 2 of Tete Tete with Movers and Shakers. I'm Astha Tatia, your happiness coach, and this season is going to be all about bringing to you leaders. So, when we talk about leaders, leadership is a journey, and leaders inspire and impact. So, what better would it be than to have those leaders here and hear out their journey of them inspiring and creating that impact? And in the process, how have they grown? How have they evolved as leaders that they are today? Won't it be exciting? And you never know at what point you'll be able to catch, a glimpse of something that you are dealing with directly, and then you get to hear from them how they've really gone ahead and addressed that challenge, that pain, and how has it worked for them. Lovely. So this is the very, very first episode of this season, and I'm super excited today because today I have a leader uh, who I have known, I would say, for years together. So we did our MBA together, and so that was like what, 2004, 2006. So those many years back. And back then also, she used to be this very dynamic person, living every moment. That's how I've remembered and I've known her. And today, what she has achieved for herself, what she has accomplished, for sure is very, very inspiring. But who she has become in the process has intrigued me, literally. And I would love for all of you to hear out from her directly. So I would like to welcome Anupama Dalmia. Hi, Anu. Such a pleasure to have you.
Hi, Astha. Thank you so much for having me on this wonderful show. And it's really very exciting to be able to talk to you today about my journey.
Lovely, lovely. So before we move on, for Anupama, while she is a multi-award winning blogger, she is writing mentor, she is a choreographer, she is an author, she is a serial entrepreneur, by the way, three ventures, and so if I miss out anything, Anupama, please do mention, because the list is so long. And above all, she is a mother to a 6-year-old little girl. And she has been talked about, she has been written about in all the media, coveted media. She has her work published in international journals, and so many different awards that she's won. But like I said, uh, you'll find her amongst the top bloggers, the top speakers. She is out there impacting lives, impacting masses, and such amazing, chunk of work that she has done. And I think it's really been inspiring to see the transformation that she has undergone in the whole process, right? So without wasting any more time, I would straight away shoot to Anupama. And Anupama, how does it feel as you stand here today with all those accolades, all those accomplishments? How does it feel?
That's an interesting question because I don't think anyone has asked me this actually. So, it feels good, but I think more than anything, I have realized that the more you achieve, no, the more you feel that there is so much more to do. It's strange. It's actually like the more you see life, the more you evolve, the more you learn. You actually realize how much more is remaining to learn, to grow. So as of today, after achieving all that I've achieved, wherever I am today, I definitely feel grateful. I'm, of course, very happy, satisfied. But I think more than anything else, what is constantly on my mind is that there is truly so much more to learn. There is so much more to know about this world. I think all of us probably know very minuscule part of it, to be very honest. And as I interact with more and more people, I realize that all the more that each journey has so much to offer, so much that we can absorb from. So yes, I would say that it's a balance between feeling content but also having that hunger to do even more, to do even more, not for achievements, because I feel that achievements are always like a byproduct. It just happens. The hunger to truly find value in what you're doing. I think that is what has actually driven me so far, that everything that I do, it makes me happy and it adds value to my own being, is what I feel. So yes, so that hunger to know more, to explore more facets within me, I think yes, that has also risen with all of these achievements. So yeah, I think that's where I am today.
Wow, great. So Anupama, when you say this hunger to know more and explore more about
Yes,
yourself,
yes.
talk to me more about that. What have you really explored? What was it that was like wow for you during this journey where you said, "Oh, this part of me is also there. It exists."
Yes, yes. To be very honest, I think my entire journey has been full of such moments where I've felt that, oh, I can do this. Oh, this is also a facet to me. Just to elaborate a bit on that. So, as you were talking about that, we did MBA. So, after MBA, I joined Infosys and I worked there for 6.5 years. And working at a corporate is obviously a different ball game. So, when I resigned to pursue my passions, to be honest, at that point, I was not very clear about, okay, what I'm going to be 5 years down the line, or say 10 years down the line. But I knew that yes, I have to do something for myself. At that point, I didn't know that I'll be doing all the things that I'm doing today. So I took it a step at a time, and I think each of it has been like a revelation about myself. Like, say for example, getting into professional writing, I never really thought that my writing can impact. I never really thought that I have the power in my words, which can truly positively impact somebody or can motivate somebody to take a step which is probably positive for their own life. So, this was something which my husband actually told me that you write well and I think you should pursue this professionally. So sometimes, there are other people who maybe trigger that thing in you, that where you then realize that yes, there is something within me which I can explore. So in my case, it was my husband when it comes to writing. Similarly, when it comes to creative writing, mentoring, again, I never knew I can be such a good mentor. And today, to be very honest, if somebody asks me that in all the roles that I play, of course, apart from being a mother, what is it that truly I feel I'm doing good at? Because I'm a little self-critical person. Generally I am like, okay, that I can improve further. But yes, as a creative writing mentor, I think definitely I'm doing a good job with kids. And I never knew that. So again, that is something I discovered. And again, that nudge came from a very close friend of mine. So I think sometimes these nudges come from people around us. Maybe they spot something and they say, I think this is something you have which you can make more of it. We sometimes don't realize that ourselves. So I would say in my own journey, I was intuitive enough to my own uh, whatever I was feeling about, okay, I think yes, this is something maybe I can do, plus also the people around me were giving me that nudge. So it was, I would say, a combination of trying to listen to what I am. And that's why I feel that each person should spend some time from time to time to introspect. I think in the fast paced lives that we have, truly, how many of us take a stock of things in our life and just sit and think that, is this what I truly want, or is this what I truly am? I don't think we all do that enough. And going from my journey, I cannot stress on that enough, how much that can reveal to you about your own self. So yes, I did that from time to time. And yes, of course, like I said, people around me also were kind of very encouraging and made me realize what I can possibly do of the talents that I have within me. So that's how this journey of exploration has been. And there's so many other things, if you get to little things, definitely we keep learning about ourselves.
Lovely. So, Anupama, while yes, people were encouraging and on this journey of exploration, uh, while you were discovering who you are at the core and what was it that you really want,
Yes.
uh, weren't there certain fears or were there certain fears that really bothered you? Because where I'm coming from is because as a society,
Mm,
and more particularly being a woman,
yes.
we are so much conditioned to be a certain way, to fit
Yes.
into certain roles, and you're a mother also. So talk to me a bit about what really played, and in terms of the transformation that you underwent, in terms of your thoughts, in terms of your whole acceptance of okay, this is what it is, but
Yes.
this is what I want.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That is so true, Astha, when you say that, especially for a woman, the way we are conditioned, and it's also sometimes, the society, sometimes it's our own apprehensions. So, yes, I definitely went all of that again at different stages. So, initially, when I resigned from Infosys, uh, a lot of people thought that I'm planning a baby and that's why I'm resigning. So, it's an assumption, like, oh, definitely, like, no, people don't assume that a woman can have her own ambition for which probably she's resigned to, do something else. So there are so many stereotypes, and yes, I did come across all. In fact, that time many people thought that such a foolish decision you're taking, you're leaving such a high profile job. So there were those naysayers, definitely they were there. But what I thought is, I have two options: either I can get affected by what they are saying, or I can choose to focus on those who are pepping me up. And I chose to do the latter, and I that's what I in fact tell all the women also whom I interact with as a part of my work today, that if there are negative people in your life, there will always be a bunch of people who are supporting you. They It could be maybe say just one or two, but there will be such people. It is, I mean, usually there are, these close friends, or could be somebody in the family who is with you. So always focus on them, focus on that positive environment. So it takes time, it doesn't happen so easily, these things are easier said than done. But yes, that's what I slowly then I thought that, see, this is my life, the other people are not coming and paying my bills, the other people are not coming and rescuing me when I'm going to be in some problem tomorrow. So why should I get so affected by whatever they think or whatever they say? This mindset actually helped me a lot to take the decisions that I have been taking. And then after I
I'm
became a
sorry,
mom.
I'm just interrupting. So, this is something very powerful that you said, where you have a bunch of negative people around you. We all have, I won't say negative people, people who kind of disempower you at times. They,
Yes,
whatever they're doing, it pulls you down.
yes,
You said this mindset helped you, but in terms of action, what did you do? Because you're right, it's not easy. It keeps coming back to you. Oh, no, 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 I'm not supposed to be doing this. Oh, he's right. This is how I should be. It keeps coming back. It's
yes.
so much there. What did you do in terms of action every day, day on, and for you to get into that new mindset?
Yes. So the first thing which I did in my case, I can of course talk about only myself, that I cut down communication with these people who were kind
Wow.
of pulling me down. And I think that is a strong uh, action that all of us need to take for ourselves, because you have to cut out that, right? They might be
Mm.
friends, they might be people you've liked in the past or whatever it is, but you have to realize that if something is not working good for you, if something is um, taking out that positive energy from you, or if something is kind of pulling you down, you have to take action. So that was the first action I took, that I cut down communication with those kind of people, and I started spending more time talking to the ones who truly were the ones who were egging me on. So that was one major thing which I did, and I ensured that I kind of maintained it. So yes, that definitely was there. It's not that I completely cut down, I'm still in touch with those people. And in fact, today those people have changed their mind. Now they are like, oh, we are so proud of what you did, or we are so proud. So that's why I say that people change, and I'm like, okay, no hard feelings for them, to be honest, because I think we all evolve with time. So maybe they also might have realized today. But yeah, for your own sake, it's important to cut off communication. The second thing which I did was, um, I always feel, at least that's what works with me, is that a lot of times, if you look within, you find a lot of answers. So I started spending more time with these conversations with my own self, that okay, forget the others, what do you really think? So I did a little bit of that self talk. And again, that's why I come back to that point of stressing on taking stock of your life from time to time, and really spending time with your own self. We don't give that priority, right? I mean, most of us, we are so busy. We are doing this, we are doing that, we are running from pillar to post, leading the way we are leading our lives. But I think that self talk helped a lot. Again, in my case, I started doing that. I started telling myself on a constant basis that yes, this is what I truly want. And when I feel like that, why should I really get so affected by what somebody may perceive? And I think it's also important, like I said, to remind that in your life, you are only answerable to your own self. you're not answerable to others. You have to look at yourself in the mirror in the night. If you can face yourself, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If you, because it is ultimately between you and your conscious. In fact, I wrote a poem a few days back. It was a very small 4-line thing, which was on the same lines that, you know, people will keep finding another prey to gossip or to put down, but you are there for you for life, right? Who else is there with you for life? Your own self. So that's how I look at it, that you are the only one you're answerable to, because you are there with you forever. There's nobody else with you forever, so forget about the others. So this kind of thinking, reminding myself of this every day, also helped a great deal.
Wow, super, lovely.
So yeah, so that's what then. And then of course, after I became a mother, begins like a completely different challenge altogether, because we all know how our society puts mothers on pedestals and we glorify motherhood. Personally, I have a huge problem with the glorification of motherhood, because you know, I mean, I am so happy to just say that I'm a flawed mother. I don't want those, you know, the sacrificing queen titles at all. And trust me, I realized that when actually I reached that stage of accepting this, I actually became a better mother. Because what happens, you know, when you're too hard on yourself, when you're trying to be this perfect thing, you will have more disappointments. You will struggle all the more. The moment I realized that I actually accepted that, yes, I'm a flawed mother, I can't be perfect, I'm just trying to do the best for my child, and it's okay, you know. I mean, it's ultimately all about the bonding that you create with your child, and there are a million ways of being a good mother. You know, we don't have to follow what somebody else says. So I realized that, yes, I feel that, yeah, I'm being a better mother, and my frustrations went down, you know, because when you're not able to meet certain expectations, you tend to get more frustrated. Then I realized that, yeah, my daughter, you know, today she knows that her mom is not a superwoman, and she doesn't need one. Kids don't need superwomen. Kids need love, care, and it's not even that you need to give them 24 hours. I always say that giving time to kid doesn't mean that, you know, you have to give them the entire day. It is that the time that you spend with them, that should be quality time, that should be undivided attention. But that's fine. Like, now I'm having this talk with you, she knows that, okay, now mama is busy, she's doing her own thing, later we'll do something together when I give her 100% of my attention. So that is more important, rather than being guilty about not being able to, you know, give that 24 hours to your child. And this motherhood guilt comes so much from the societal expectations that, oh, you're such a bad mother, you did this. We are very quick to say why somebody is a bad mother. So yeah, I mean, you know, I completely, that's why I say that I just dislike this thought of glorifying motherhood. Yes, of course, mothers do a lot and mothers should be appreciated, but they don't need to be like glorified. I think they need to be appreciated just for the people they are, and people should realize that they will make mistakes. um, and for me, you know, personally, I'll tell you why I actually had this realization. I was also like that when I became a mother, of, you know, that being that perfect mom, the sacrificing queen, and, you know, what others expect of me. I went through, no, I won't say I went through clinical postpartum depression, because it was not a clinical diagnosis, but I did go through post pregnancy, you know, like post delivery blues, as they say. And there were days when I felt that, why did I get into this? You know, did I really have to do this? And I felt so guilty that, no, I love my daughter, but why am I really thinking this way, that I shouldn't have become a mother? And I felt so much of guilt, because how much do we talk about this? We don't talk about this, right? There's very less awareness about postpartum depression. There's very less awareness about what actually it means like to be a mother. Even in the advertisements, you will see all rosy picture, right? So I was struggling. I remember those initial months was such a huge struggle. Of course, there was sleep deprivation, then there were breastfeeding issues, there were a lot of health issues. And I was like, I'm not liking this thing in me, that, you know, what is going on? And then what I did is, I was surfing Facebook one day, and I landed up upon a very nice support group for new moms. And there I realized that there are so many moms who feel like that, and I was not alone. So why am I feeling so guilty? It's not a very uncommon thing to happen. There were many who said that yes, there are days when we really want to truly escape from everything, and we feel that what have we done? It doesn't mean that we don't love our children. It is what you go through, right? You so much has changed in our life, and you go through so many hormonal changes. So that's when I realized that I'm being too hard on myself, and there are so many things we don't know about. So I think this particular transformation which happened in me, a lot happened because of awareness. So which is why I now try to use my writing to actually spread awareness on a lot of things, because I feel that that helps a lot in overcoming a lot of things. And even the fact that if somebody knows, because I get a lot of such messages from moms where they say that we read your article and we're just happy to know that we are sailing in the same boat, or there is somebody else also. That itself is so assuring for them. So I think, yeah, that whole period of a few months, or even actually it was, I think, more than a year, it was a slow transformation based on awareness and based on the realization that yes, to be a good mother, I only need to follow my child's cues and nobody else's. So yeah, that's how I think I achieved that whole thing of transformation
Wow.
post motherhood. Yeah.
Wow, I think that's so inspiring and so relevant in today's context when we see so many women leaders coming up, and they have so much to offer, and still somewhere you to spoke about the stereotype, and at times you just feel that today when we talk of that equality, when we talk
Mm.
about women empowerment, and it's so loosely talked about,
Yes.
and still the stereotype prevails, and somewhere, so I think
A
great.
lot, a lot.
I
Yeah.
think that's a very powerful input for women, to really look inwards. And somewhere, I think if we are able to really accept ourselves the way we are, and I think a very powerful thing that you said, introspecting regularly, talking to
Yeah.
yourself, understanding yourself, your needs, and then standing up for yourself. I think you are the one who's there for you throughout. So
Right.
very, very powerful. So one thing, you have been working with human trafficking survivors, right? You worked with them,
Yes,
right?
I've worked.
So I really want to know your experience, and I think you are a Karamveer Chakra awardee, and that's a global civilian honor which is presented by International Confederation of NGOs in association with United Nations. So is that for your work with these survivors, human trafficking survivors, and uh, what
Yeah,
has been the experience like?
I'll
Yeah.
let you know that. So the Karamveer Chakra award which I received, it was last year. So it
Hmm.
was not only for that. So it was for my overall contribution as a writer to
Hmm.
make a social impact,
Okay.
as well as the actual on-ground work that. So after I actually worked with human trafficking survivors, I had actually taken a break when I was pregnant, because
Mhm.
what happens is, when you work on something like that, it affects you a lot emotionally. So my doctor had advised me to kind of take a break during pregnancy, of course, so that you can be in a because it really, like, trust me, sometimes some of the stories that you hear, it can really make you feel so emotionally drained of
Yeah.
just knowing about what people go through. So
Mm.
yes, so that time I had then taken a break from that. But what I started doing later is I started working with a lot of women, helping them on different aspects. So see, women go through a lot of issues, right? Sometimes it's a issue of, say, family. Sometimes they just probably need some motivation. Sometimes they need some financial support. Sometimes they want to start something of their own and they don't know how to go about it. So there were different aspects where a lot of women needed help. So the Karamveer Chakra award that I received was also for that, for the work that I have been doing with women, helping them on various aspects of
Mhm.
life. And in fact, today I have my own non-profit initiative called the Building Bridges Foundation. So basically, that's what we do. We just help women build this community where we can kind of empower each other with knowledge, with skills, and just that motivation that we all need. So now, my experience with human trafficking survivors, I would say that that was like we always say, in everybody's life there are always these some experiences or moments which are like, they transform people a lot greatly. They are like these, I would say, life changing. So
Yeah.
for me, that experience was one such experience, because what happens, before I started doing that, we used to hear about these things in, say in news, or we used to read in newspapers, or say we used to watch movies with that kind of a theme. But you know hearing something like that and actually interacting and working on the ground on something, I realized there are two vastly different things. Because till the time you're only hearing, what happens is you have this momentary thing of, oh, I feel so bad knowing this, but then we all move on, right? But when you actually meet, interact with such people, when you are in there, in that murk, you realize that this is such a, like, you realize how different worlds exist within one world. That's how I put it, that uh, I mean, we are completely in a different world, and we are in such a privileged world. So I think for me, that was a huge realization of my privileges. And
Wow.
I think that enabled me to practice gratitude better in my life in terms of what I have, because you realize that there are people going through such challenges that you can't even hear some of these stories. They are so painful. Because human trafficking, a lot of times, many of these survivors were actually trafficked by their own family. Like, the family sold them, and
Mm.
hence they don't have any place to go back to also.
Mm.
So it was truly a life changing experience for me. And I think that has definitely helped me a lot to realize what is truly important in life. Because we all otherwise are cribbing about so many things. And even today, if I find myself in that kind of a zone, I try to look back at that experience. I try to think about those people, and I feel that they showed so much of resilience. So there were some survivors who, I mean, when I spoke to them, I used to be amazed at the kind of attitude they had. After going through so much, they still had that attitude of, okay, I have got this opportunity now that I have been rescued. So what can I do best to, make something of my life? And I was like, wow. So I think that was very inspiring. And I always say that, apparently I was kind of, working with them to rehabilitate them, but I don't know if it was actually the other way around. To because the way they teach you so much, I think that is something, that kind of experience and learning, you cannot find in books or movies or just
Mm.
hearing stories. That is something you will find only when you're actually there in that. And the thing is, this particular human trafficking world is a very murky world. There are a lot of life risks also involved, because a lot of big names are usually involved in such kind of things. And the people who were working in the rescuing missions, they had so many threats. They were, I mean, I remember that the NGO for which where I was volunteering, the rehabilitation center was completely destroyed by the mafia once. But yet they would, come back, that okay, no problem, ye hua hai, we'll again resurrect. So of course it is very disheartening, demotivating. So when I was with those people, and even with the survivors, I think from so many aspects I realized that life will definitely keep, it will find ways to bog you down, put you down. But the only way you can rise is your own self. Like, somebody can probably offer you a hand, but you have to get up. That effort has to come from your side. So
Mm.
yes, I think that experience taught me a lot. It still teaches me, and I'm sure even in the future it is going to always, I always say that, it has become a part of my blood and bones. I just absorbed so much from that experience. So yeah, I
Mm.
think I am truly glad and blessed I got that opportunity. And today, a lot of people tell me that, oh wow, Anupama, you're doing so much for the society. And I always say that I don't look at it like that. I look at it as I'm so blessed, and I'm so fortunate that I got the opportunity to do something. Because we are not doing anyone a favor. We don't realize, I think sometimes, that everything impacts us in some or the other way. So when we are actually helping somebody or doing something for someone, we are actually improving our own world. Everything is linked. Yeah, we are not living in boxes. So I never
True,
view it
true.
as I'm doing something great. I think it is the bare minimum all of us need to do. And I also say this, that doing something, which can make somebody smile, or which can probably help them, will actually benefit you more. The happiness you feel after that is unparalleled. So that's why I always say that, you're not actually doing anything for somebody else. You will realize how much it actually helps you. And that's what happened with me. And that is the reason why I keep working in the social space, whatever I can, in my capacity, because I just feel it's the bare minimum we all need to do. I mean, I don't look at it like, initially, of course, I must admit that, see, now I have evolved as a person. But when I began with the thought that, yes, I want to work on the ground and make some, social impact. But I think as I have done this now, I realize that, I'm impacting my own life only positively with this. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's how I look at it.
Wow, 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 wow. That's so amazing. Lovely. So, in this whole journey, Anupama, even while you were, I think until Infosys, probably you knew, okay, this is what it is. Tomorrow, this is where I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to do. It was, I think, there was quite a lot of
Yes. Yeah,
certainty
yeah,
that was there, right? But what I understand, post that, once you quit Infosys, uh, there was there wasn't a destination that you were looking at
yes.
to arrive. It just kept happening, you kept evolving, you just kept going, right? It was, I would say, there was a lot of uncertainty, there was a lot of, it was unknown,
Yes.
right? How did you deal with that fear? Was there a fear at all? Because we all kind of, we don't like uncertainty, our brains want certainty, and at times it gets just so heavy. uh, I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow, how am I going to deal with this, what is going to come out of this? So how did you deal with that?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah. See, I did have apprehensions for sure at the beginning. But then Astha, see, I think COVID and 2020 has proved to everybody that life is anyways uncertain. Who knew that all this will happen? And that's why I say that the question which people ask in interviews, I always found it silly even earlier, and now I all the more find it silly that where do you see yourself 5 years down the line? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Who knows where life is going to take us? And that's why I think that question actually should be banned. And being from MBA, we both know how much that gets asked everywhere, that, what is your 10-year long vision? Array, we don't know what will happen next year. So I believe in living life not with being a visionary in terms of years. I think the vision has to be more with respect to what you want to do. And the moment you shift that thing from, okay, tomorrow and years, I mean, from the time aspect, the moment you shift your vision in terms of the work and the impact, you will realize that it makes you more comfortable.
Wow.
Like, so say today, if I think that, oh my God, I don't know, 10 years down the line, will Beyond the Box, say, for example, one of my ventures, will
Yeah.
it be as big? No, I don't want to think of that. Rather, I might think that, okay, today, this is the impact I've created. Maybe, yes, in terms of the impact, this is what I see Beyond the Box doing. And when you start focusing from the aspect of the work, the tasks, and of course, the impact, it makes you a lot more comfortable. So that is one thing I learned with time along the way, and that's how I overcame my apprehensions. The second thing which I always advise is, see, as humans, we are all very wired to think of what if scenarios. What if this happens? What if this goes wrong?
Yeah.
What I did is I started focusing on what next instead of what if. So I always tell people, forget about what if, focus on what next. So the moment you focus on what next, again, your attitude changes to action rather than just thinking, I mean, because then it becomes more like an outcome based focus, because then you're thinking of, okay, so now I've achieved this, what I want to do next. Whether it will work or not, we'll see tomorrow. If it doesn't work, then you think of what next, then, instead of thinking of what if now. Yes, to be practical, it makes sense to also have backup plans. I believe that, how much ever you may believe in what you want to do, what maybe ideas you may have, but we all have to be practical. And hence, I always had a backup plan in my head, like, okay, if this doesn't work, then maybe what I want to do. So, but I never pondered too much over it, because then you start feeling a little jittery and all. So go ahead with confidence, but just for the sake of being practical, just have an idea in your head that, okay, if this doesn't work out, maybe I'll do this and we'll see then. And so that's how I have truly, all these years, I think that's how I have lived my life, with the what next approach, especially when it comes to my work. And that has helped immensely. And hence I'm a very task oriented person. And even that's the reason why today, a lot of people tell me that how do you stay grounded when you get so many awards and recognitions? And I tell them that, I would be foolish to not stay grounded, because the moment you start feeling smug, or oh wow, I've achieved so much, your growth stops, right? Because then you're feeling like, oh, I've achieved so much. So then how do you develop that hunger? So I say that I would be foolish, and it would actually be my end if I start feeling that, oh wow, I've achieved so much. So the growth actually only happens when you realize that there is still so much more to do, more to learn. So I don't really, like, say, suppose if I win something, I feel happy. Of course, it feels great, but then I move on very quickly to what next. Okay, so this has happened. Now, what next I want to focus on? So I think, yeah, that attitude has helped me immensely, and this attitude has actually helped even some of the women whom I have mentored. So even they had so many apprehensions and fears. So I told them to make calm karo, so you don't think too much. You just focus on, okay, this is what I want to do, is what steps I need to take next for this. And what happens later, we'll see. And slowly, when they started practicing that, and sometimes, maintaining a journal helps. I maintain that. So because I have multiple lines of work, and obviously so much to do, so I maintain a journal, and journaling does help immensely. So yeah, it helped even them, and they came back and told me that yes, this actually attitude is working for us. So I just hope for people watching this, maybe it might even help them. I'd be very happy.
Lovely. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Journaling is a very powerful tool, and I really love that. From what if to what next,
Yeah.
right? So getting down to action, and
Yeah.
then not bothering unnecessarily. Very, very nice. So Anupama, one thing that I would really want to know is, uh, when we talk about happiness,
Hmm.
and how would you define happiness for you, and how do you ensure, that you are happy?
Hmm. Hmm. Happiness is such an individualistic thing, right? Like, in the sense, what may give me happiness, probably, somebody else may find happiness in something else.
Yeah.
So I feel somehow happiness is a little difficult to define, like love. Like, like we say, love is something which we can't define. So I feel the same about happiness. But
Mhm.
having said that, I personally feel that happiness is not a noun. I think it's a verb. So
Mhm.
technically it's a noun, but the way I look at it as a verb. I feel it is something, it we wait that it will come to us. I don't think that's how it works. We also
Mm.
have to practice it in some ways. And also people tend to think that being happy means somebody's always happy. That there's happiness in my life means always I'll be happy. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, we are humans and things happen in life.
Yeah.
So today, if I'm sad over something, doesn't mean I'm not a happy person. So we need to view happiness as more of the way we perceive our life in general, the way, the state of mind that we have. And it's not, like I say, it's not like every time you have to be happy, but it's more like, the way you overall perceive things in your life. And for me personally, I feel that happiness has to be practiced, uh, because there will be things which may make you feel, say, suppose, sometimes work challenges are there, or sometimes there could be family issues. Everybody has challenges in life. So you have to make attempts to, and see, I think one thing is very important, that you need to know that what are the things which really give you happiness. I think so many of us don't know even that sometimes,
Mm.
because I have seen so many people having this FOMO, like it's a new term, I know, the millennial term of FOMO, that fear of missing out. So it's more of that, oh, he has that, I don't have it. And I say that, for what is, see, you have to find your own happiness. Now today, if somebody is achieving something, doesn't matter to me, because I know that, yeah, these are the 5 things or 10 things which matter to me, which really give me happiness. So I
Mm.
think the first step is to know what truly gives you happiness, and not run after what others are finding happiness in. That is their journey, and yours is
Mm.
different.
Mm.
And secondly, you have to practice it in different ways. Like, say, for example, like I was talking about, when you help somebody, or when you're positively impacting somebody's life, that gives happiness to me. Spending time with my daughter gives happiness to me. Journaling, I'll come back to that. I think journaling and even sometimes practicing gratitude, I feel helps a lot. In fact, I know that even professional psychologists also recommend this to a lot of people struggling with mental health issues as well. Where you actually write about your feelings, and then also write about the things which you're grateful for,
Yeah,
the good
true.
things. So yes, so you have to keep doing these things. Basically what I'm trying to get at is, you have to constantly give time to yourself and do these things which give you happiness. It's not going to come just like that. You have to create it for yourself, basically. And like I said, that's why I look at it like a verb. It's a constant action. And that's what I do. Suppose I'm going through a phase, like say for me, December month was a little bit of a challenge on a personal front due to multiple things. And so it doesn't mean that, like I became an unhappy person then. But yes, there were things which were bogging me down. And then I made attempts to ensure that, yes, I keep going and I keep that spirit, I lift up that spirit. For me, like say, for example, spending time with friends or even talking to them gives me a lot of happiness. So you need to do these things. Give time to yourself and prioritize. I think, to me, self care, self love is so much to do with self prioritization. How much you really thinking, are you doing the things for your own sake? And yeah, so I think that's how I look at happiness. And of course you are the expert, but yeah, as a lay person, that's how I view happiness in my own life.
Lovely, lovely. I think it's visible with the kind of work that you do, and I'm sure you would agree that the whole journey of transformation that you've gone through, and I think a different level of happiness that you would have experienced once you fell in love with yourself,
Right.
once you learned to accept yourself. And I think, yeah, that's so amazing and so powerful. So great. Thank you, Anupama. Lovely talking to you. And I think I could go on with all these different areas that you are a part of. You are contributing in with different people that you are impacting, and there are so many stories I know that you would have, and I would really want to hear them. And I would love to maybe have you again sometime so that we
Sure.
could talk more on that. But it was really, really amazing, and thank you for inspiring. Thank you for impacting lives, and lots of wishes, lots of love to you. May you continue doing this and keep inspiring. Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much. Thank you, Astha. It was such a pleasure talking to you today about my journey, and a lot of things. They were very interesting because I don't, normally think so much about that. And while talking to you, there were things that, I also now feel I'll probably do another round of self-talk today.
Wow, lovely, interesting. Great, great, great. So thank you so much, Anupama.
Thank you. Bye
And
bye.
thank you, and hope you all enjoyed this. Hope you all, could relate to a lot of things that Anupama spoke about. A lot of powerful things that she spoke about as a leader, and not just a leader, but I think a woman leader. A lot of challenges that we face in our day-to-day life, despite all our accomplishments, all our accolades. And I think she's given some very powerful tactics of how she deals with them in her day-to-day life. And I think a lot of takeaways for us. Great. So stay tuned. Go ahead, subscribe, because we'll have a lot of powerful leaders coming up here. Take care. Enjoy. Bye bye.